Hi everybody, Jill here. Welcome to my channel. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today we're going to be doing an eyes haven't look. This is just a look with the eyes today. Got my makeup all to the point where I'm ready to get started, so let's do that. I'm going to be working out of my Soft Glam palette here. This is an Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow palette, and I adore Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadows. They are absolutely dreamy. They are buttery, they are easy to blend, they're very pigmented, and I've learned to adjust for that. You definitely just need to go light, and if you have to sort of build, you're better off doing than possibly loading like maybe you're used to with some other brands of shadows, and then you're gonna have just a big mess when it comes to blending. So my advice, if you have this palette, is to definitely load carefully, knock it off really well, and you know, it's better again to go back in a second or maybe even a third time to build it to the, you know, the point that you like it, because it's so much easier to do that than it is to try to calm down what you may have done with putting too much on. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start with an all over wash. Not all shadow palettes have a really great wash color in them, but this one does. So we're gonna go in with Tempera, and I'm gonna load my brush here. I'm gonna knock it off, and I'm just gonna start by kind of tapping and pressing it in. I love when these lighter colors still have really good payoff. I love that because that's not always the case. So why do I prefer doing an all over wash color at first? Well, you know, it's a lot like painting if you're familiar with that. It's gonna allow the colors that I put on top to blend out so much nicer. And it also, especially when you have one as nice as this where you do have good coverage with it, it does sort of blend out and sort of soften maybe some veining that you might see, and it evens out the pigment, and it creates just a really great canvas to build our look upon. So I definitely prefer using a wash color. Next, I'm going to be using, this is a Makeup Geek Dome brush. I really love this one. It's a little dense. It's not super bendy. That means that it's going to cover a lot of ground for me and deposit color pretty easily. So I'm not going to load this up a lot because it's just going to put a little too much on in this particular brand. We just don't need to do that at all. So let's go in. Really gonna knock that off really well. And let me move this right in your way, probably, hopefully not. And I'm gonna start by just kind of tapping this right in this area. I'm touching the skin, I'm sort of really lightly packing it on the tissue, and I'm just gonna put it exactly where I want it right away. Little light strokes. I like holding my makeup brushes when I do this down quite low, and that's because it's just a very, very light touch that I'm using, really. And if I hold it up too high, I feel like it's just defeating that, and it's actually kind of forcing me to press a little harder, and I really am doing very light sort of strokes. Now I have hardly any pigment left on this, so then I'm really going to even lessen my touch even more, and I'm just going to really lightly blend this in. So when you're doing this, be really careful not to bring this down too low right in here. We don't want to bring this down too low because it'll just sort of draw the eye down. And what we are hoping for is a look that will draw the eyes up. So be really careful how low you take any pigment that you're going to be using today on this eye look. you know, be careful you're not bringing any of it down too far down in here. And same with your eyebrows, you know, take a good look and see, are they very clean? You know, definitely tweeze out any strays, but also make sure that you don't have too much going down up through this area, because again, it'll kind of sort of draw the look down, and we want to do the opposite. All right, so what I've done is I've now created sort of a warm background. Even though I'm wearing sort of a burgundy, cooler burgundy color really, I'm going to incorporate something like that into my look, but I'm just gonna kind of warm up the background for now. I'm gonna create a little more depth now, and I'm gonna create that depth here on the outside of my look and in a little as well. Again, be really careful, because the amount of pigment that these eyeshadows give you is really intense, and it can very easily sort of take over your look, and then when you go to blend it out, it just turns into a muddy mess. Believe me, I have had it happen. As much as I absolutely love these shadows, it does kind of, you know, I have to almost alter my application technique with these, because the payoff is incredible. So I'm gonna do, I mean, I was able to do both sides of my eye look with just one load, and that means I really kind of loaded. I could have knocked this off even more, and even maybe dabbed it on my terry cloth towel down there, because it was a little much there, but we've made it work. But that first color that we put does establish a really beautiful sort of background for the color that we just used. I know it seems like, well, why did you even have to put that color on? It's just like painting. It's creating depth, and it's not that involved. It's very, very simple and easy, but it just creates just a really pretty overall effect, I think. All right, so here's a couple different dome brushes, and as you can see, this seems small, and it is small, but this one is actually even smaller, and this is the one I want to use for our next color, because it's going to give me a lot of control, but it's not super skinny for like lining or anything, but it's perfect. And this is a Makeup Geek brush, and you know the sad thing is, I don't even know if they sell makeup brushes anymore. I'll look, and if they do, I'll definitely link them down below. And I am going to take this now and pack it right here on the outside part of my mobile lid, close to my lash line. It's still a fairly thick line, but I'm just going to kind of push it, lift the tissue so I can get right up next to my lash line there. And I'm going to just keep pressing and blending that. I'm going to do the other eye. All right, now I'm going to take the same brush here, actually, and I'm going to dab the very tip of it, kind of rocking it a little bit, but the top of this brush I'm going to load with the same mulberry, and I'm actually going to touch it a couple times down here on my towel, and then I am going to kind of tap, tap, drag, drag, and we're going to line underneath with this color too. I'm going to connect it without going down, keeping in mind what we talked about earlier. And it will all come together when we get our mascara on and everything. Things look a little weird at this point, but that's okay. It's going to come together. I am going to put a little bit more of that mulberry on this same brush, still working with that little dome brush. I'm going to tap it off there on my towel, and I just want to make some, just a little bit deeper. I want this to be a little deeper here in the ends, the edges, the outer portion of my eye look. Okay. Better, better, better. Okay. All right, I think I like that. Okay, so we are done. We are done with the eyeshadows. That wasn't that hard. Not at all. I get sad when I have comments like, that looks so hard, I could never do that. Oh man, it isn't. It isn't at all. Just practice, have fun. It shouldn't be a frustrating experience at all. I think this makeup, playing with makeup, is just a very relaxing. It should be relaxing at least. The next line of business, we are going to curl our eyelashes. This is gonna make tight lining easier, I find, because the lashes are kind of up and out of the way. And if you're like me, my lashes sort of grow straight down, and at least when I put my mascara on now, my eyes will look a little more awake and open. So I never used to curl my eyelashes, but then again, my eyelashes never used to grow straight down. So I have found this has been kind of a little bit of a game changer. Right at the moment, my absolute favorite kohl deep black, creamy black pencil that I absolutely love to tightline with is my Sigma. Now, it doesn't stay around as long as, say, the NARS Larger Than Life does, but this one is it's the deepest black that I've ever used in this form. And it just is so creamy, and it applies so easily in the tight line that I reach for it almost every single time. So we are going to tight line with this now. I want to make sure I don't have anything on my pinky, because I do like to kind of rest my pinky around here, and then I open my eyes really wide and I just proceed to kind of scrub it underneath my eyelashes and actually on the tight line. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and put some mascara on, so let's go ahead and do that. And then it's going to be time for the eyebrows. I've been using this. I do like it. I go back and forth because I really do love my Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara. But I also got this to try it out, and it's the Tarte mascara. But I also really have been enjoying this one as well. So I've decided, yeah, I guess I will go ahead and do my brows on camera this time, since this is an Eyes Have It, and your brows are the frame of your face and definitely of your eyes. So I guess I should go ahead and include it in my Eyes Have It looks. So the first thing, I'm going to definitely run this through, make sure I get powder and foundation. Start with a nice clean backdrop here. All right, so I use a very small little angled brush here. This is something that I got in a little set, and I want to say it was $3 for the set at Forever 21 years and years ago. Any little angled brush will do. It needs to be kind of firm. I also sometimes will use this, which is also a tiny bit bigger, but it works too. And this was like an applicator in some palette I got. Anything like this works really well. Okay, so I use All Benefit brow products. I really do love their brow products, and over the years I've had to use more and more product. It used to be I would just use an eyeshadow and just fill in a little bit and I was good to go. But as I age, as my brows have fallen out, not grown back, as they come in white, I'm losing the shape of my left brow quite a bit just through aging. This side definitely is my easier side to do because I have really kind of retained the shape of my brows. Even though several of them are white, this is the side that is hit or miss. Sometimes it works and I'm happy with the way they look. Other times, not so much. So I've had to not only use a brow powder, I now am using a brow tint gel that will help the white brows that are there. So it helps to kind of fill in my look because of that. And yeah, I just have had to add a couple more steps to the brow routine, but it's worth it for me because I do think good brows is really, really powerful in the finished makeup look. So first thing I do is I dip into the Foolproof Brow Powder. I have a couple different palettes. I have a 3 or a 3.5, a 3 or 3.5, and then I have this one. This is a 5. So I really jumped it up, and with the rooting color generally of the blondes and the wigs that I do wear, I have to make my brows fairly dark these days. So I went up to palette 5. So all I'm gonna do here actually is I'm just gonna run this really right and grab both colors. And the first thing I like to do is establish that bottom line. So I'm just gonna make a straight line right across. I don't like to go right to the very front here because I want that to look a little bit more natural, and then I'll drag it up a little bit. Then I'm gonna, again, grab some more, and I'm going to establish my top line. I want a higher arch than what I naturally have, but I do have little hairs that grow out, that grow right up in there. So I really recommend that you don't tweeze those out, because that will be kind of your new future arch as you lose your natural arch. So that's that. Yeah, I try not to reload when I go in the front there, because I want that to not be quite as deep. Now it looks a little stark right now, more so in person than probably even over camera, but I'm not done yet. I'm gonna soften that out, and I gotta do my challenge side here. So again, I'm just gonna pick up both colors. I'm gonna do my straight line. Establish the arch. So this side really requires a more powder, because I actually have to color the skin really, because I'm so sparse. So sometimes I will even start out darker on this one, on this side here, because when I go to sort of brush it away with my spoolie, I don't want to take away, you know, too much of the powder, which is generally what can happen. All right, so we have that going on. So now I'm gonna take my spoolie, any spoolie will do. This is on the opposite end of a brow pencil that I never use, but the spoolie's nice and small, and I kind of like that. So I'm gonna soften this whole application here, especially that line on the bottom and the line on the top. So I'm just gonna soften and almost take away the harshness of that line. I'm gonna brush it and take away, separate the line there, and make sure that top line is softened without taking it all away. All right, same here. Now I just got to be a little more careful here, because if I take too much away, then I'm left with back to square one again. But I still want it to look soft. It's just a fine line on this side of looking soft, and then it just sort of not being there anymore. Okay. I'm just gonna soften the front here. I do wipe off the spoolie too on my little white terry cloth towel in between. Okay, we're done with the powder. So now we're gonna go in with the Gimme Brow Tinted Brow Gel. This is 4.5, and I love this tinted brow gel. There is a learning curve with it, so don't get too frustrated. It takes a little bit of practice, but you'll get the hang of it. Again, I have days where I have no issues and everything's great, and other days where I struggle through the whole thing. So it's just, I never know. But I do love that I've added this to my routine, because again, I do have white, really white eyebrows. But the other reason why I like using this and adding this is because it gives it another dimension, and it makes it look more natural when it's all done. It separates what brows I do have, and it brings them sort of to the forefront, which I think gives it a very natural look. And I'm loving, loving, loving this brow gel. It's really kind of changed my whole brow routine to upping the ante on how I like it. Okay, so I'm going to now go to my challenging side. I have to still use my I'm right-handed. I still have to use my right hand. I've tried it left-handed. And I just have to pay attention to the angle that I'm holding this, because I've made a mess doing this. It took a little practice to do my left brow, but we're just gonna do the best we can. Again, there is a fine line because this will take away a little bit of powder in the process. So I have to be careful with how many times I go over certain spots and certain areas. Okay. I'm going to stop there. Now, I'm not going to go back in with my spoolie. I used to do that, and I find that it takes away too much product, especially on this side. So I'm going to go over the top of that with the 24-hour brow gel. This is just clear gel. I know it seems like overkill, but nothing will set the brows better than a clear brow gel. And I love the comb in this. It really separates what brows I do have. And it cleans up the whole look and softens it out even more. So I'm gonna just go over that brow gel, kind of lift and put those brow hairs exactly where I want them, and they will stay there all day. These are all waterproof, these products, made for the brows. So unlike eyeshadow, these are waterproof. You're not gonna have any issues. If it's raining, if you sweat, your brows are gonna look good all day. All right, we'll see you next time. Stay well, stay safe, and stay young at heart. Bye-bye.